Good afternoon. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Dylan Talks Tone. Welcome to the Just Gonna Say It podcast. It's Tuesday afternoon at 4 p.m. We're just going to talk about guitar stuff. That's what we do pretty much every day on this channel. And so we were talking about some stuff last week. We were talking about NAMM. We're going to talk about NAMM. And of course, there's a lot of conversation surrounding a lot of this stuff. And I was right. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not always right, but I'm glad that I was on this stuff. I'm not going to say it feels good, but what I will say is when somebody argues against reality so hard, sometimes it's just kind of funny. That's all I'll say. So, because, you've seen comment sections in Guitar Land from the last few weeks. Before we get going on all that stuff, just go ahead and go over to DylanTalksTone.com and check out our pickups and etc. We have a couple of really interesting things this week. First of all, we have engraved coffee mugs that were tumblers that we're making here in-house. Well, not making them, we're engraving them here in-house. So we're not third-party doing that anymore, which is pretty cool because they were kind of unreliable. So we just took it over. And Strat stuff, including loaded pickguards, is on sale for 10% off this week. So if you want Strat pickups, if you want a loaded pickguard, etc., you can do that. One of the options that we added, we used to get a lot. Well, the reason I'm doing it, we get a lot of requests for shielding. And so what we're doing is we're actually buying bulk copper shielding to where we can do the pickguard in one piece. So it's not a bunch of pieces put together, but we custom cut it. And so it looks nice when it's done. We're going to do a video about shielding here coming up because it's pretty cool. So we added that as a drop-down menu option. It costs a few bucks because the material costs a few bucks, and it takes me like a while because we do it by hand. So me and Brianna. So yeah. The other thing I wanted to mention too, a couple things is we also added on the website a custom colors gallery. Basically, this is just as I make this stuff in crazy colors, like, pickups and, like P90s and humbuckers and Strat pickups with the new covers and, custom stuff and custom engraving. Sometimes it's hard to imagine like the stuff that you could do. Like, wow, I didn't know that was possible. So I've just made a tab on the top of the website that you can just go and look a bunch of stuff that we've made in the past. So if it gives you an idea, you don't see it on the website, maybe you don't see it. Shoot me a message in the chat. Maybe I have some of that material left over. Maybe you have an idea for material we don't have. Like, I'm down. That stuff's really fun to do. So just to feed your imagination, I thought that would be kind of fun. The other thing you can do at Dylan Talks Tone is scroll down to the bottom of the front page there, the main page, and submit your rig. We pick one every week and talk about it during the live stream on Thursday. And then once a month, we give away something cool. And so we're probably going to be doing that this week. I think we've got 4 in a row now because it's the last week of January. So we should be, what we do is we put up a poll and we let you, the viewers, vote on the best of the month. So me and Brianna and Leslie pick the ones every week, and then the best of the month that actually wins the thing, we have nothing to do with it. You all pick it on Thursday. So that's pretty cool. That's fun. Yeah. And then the other thing is, I don't know if y'all know, but we have Dylan Talks Tone 2, which is just Dylan Talks Tone 2, the YouTube channel. Just kind of a little rant place over there for me. Sometimes we've got material or we'll do a video on the main channel and maybe something needs a little bit more explanation that's not technical. We've been talking a lot about marketing stuff. We've been talking a lot about we're going to talk about cheap guitars today, Harley Benton and stuff, and we're going to talk about how that has affected the market. We might not talk about everything there is to talk about that today, so a lot of times I'll just do a little extra thing on that. So definitely check that out. Yeah, man. Okay. So the first thing I want to talk about today, and get in the comments if you have guitar questions or things you want to add, because I want to talk, first of all, let's get this up here. Is there anything that you saw at NAMM that you are interested in? Like if you were watching it, if you went, that's really cool. But if you're watching it on YouTube, the coverage from the various places or, YouTubers or whatever, that's kind of how I'm doing it. And also like guitar magazines and stuff because I didn't go. So I might have missed something. So go ahead and get in the chat and be like, yo, this is the coolest thing I saw at NAMM. Share that. And I'm going to share a few of the things that I thought were really cool. And yeah, there will be links to like Sweetwater in the description. If you want to buy some of this stuff, you can do that. That'll help out the channel. Yeah. So there you go. I really liked, and then we're going to talk about some stuff that Phil McKnight talked about yesterday that I want to discuss too, because it's an extension of this what's happening with Harley Benton thing, but it's actually a bigger picture than just them. And so I want to get into that a little bit. Hopefully you watched his podcast video yesterday. It was really good. And he took input from other channels, 60 Cycle Hum and a few others that talked about it too. So yeah, I think it's really cool. Let's see. Does anybody say anything? Biggest takeaway from Dylan too is be nice. Exactly. Just be nice. Okay. So, okay. My favorite stuff from NAMM. Hang on. I gotta flip back over. I had a bunch of notes today. It's not very often that a 20-watt amp really impresses me, but that Phil X Friedman is pretty rad. Anything that Dave Friedman does usually is pretty good, but when you get down to 20 watts, things can start to sound kind of crunchy when you push them, and they can sound like a small amp trying to be big that isn't really effective at that, but that thing sounds amazing. It's not inexpensive, but that's a really cool amp. And then the other one, and I don't remember the name of it, but Magnatone had a couple of things. Slash has a practice amp that he just came out with. And then they have a baby Princeton that looks very intriguing too. I can't remember what it's called. If you guys saw that coverage, you'll have to get in the comments and say it, but it's a 12-inch. Kind of their version of a Princeton, but apparently better, because it's Magnatone. They're going to say that. Not inexpensive. I mean, these things are, $2,800 or something, but really, really cool. I was really stoked about that. The Wampler pedal head. Okay. So I'm not a big pedal guy. So, put those in here, cause I don't know what that stuff is. Dastardly Dave was on he's in the comments right now, and he was on our, member hangout last night. Once a month we do that for Patreon members and YouTube members at the highest level. And he was mentioning this JBL, what is this thing? The JBL Bandbox with STEM AI. And he actually ordered one. And the smaller one is about the size of like a Positive Grid Spark Mini. And it's got a bunch of really neat features if you're a play along with it kind of person and figuring out music. And then he also mentioned Shark guitars, which is pretty cool. Somebody actually just mentioned that Dweezil's video from NAMM with the over-engineered guitar. That was pretty cool. One of my buddies actually locally messaged me and said, hey, did you see that thing? That was pretty neat. Let's see, what else are other people saying? The Orange ORA 60 for people who like combos instead of amp heads, the Synergy IR 20 combo. Okay. Let's see. I'm still waiting on a red P90 Gibson Les Paul. Maybe I'll have to repaint one myself eventually. They actually have, they don't have a P90 one, do they? Okay. The other thing is, I'm an acoustic freak. And I really like Breedlove stuff. They're under new ownership in the last couple of years, and their Roots series is a completely USA made guitar for about $2,800, which that sounds expensive, but it's pretty reasonable actually when you look at what a Breedlove is. They're fantastic instruments, so that's pretty cool. I'm pretty stoked about that one. Robbie says, did anybody else notice that Epiphone has removed all P90 Les Pauls and SGs from their lineup? I did not notice that. Well, that's a bummer. The other one that I was really impressed with, I really like that Peterson tuner, the tuning monitor, is pretty neat. Seymour Duncan had a couple really cool things. They had their reissue of the JB, which I don't care about. I don't really like that pickup. I think our center punch is better. But the Mortal Coil is a active pickup with 3 different voices, and I don't think it's not like a Fishman Fluence. I don't think, with like all the layers, the coil layers, but they were able to voice it with like this real high gain sound, and then like with the JB, and then with a single coil, which is pretty cool. The dude that played the demo that I saw was very, very gainy. And so you could tell I think there's ways to set that guitar up or use that pickup that you'd get more out of it than the way they demoed it. But it was really cool. I dig that a lot. And then the Seymour Duncan Telegib is a Fender custom shop thing where they are reproducing Seymour Duncan's personal double humbucker Telecaster. So if you remember the story there, you had he made a Telecaster for Jeff Beck, but he did it differently. I think he did like whacked off the bridge and then put a humbucker in there. And then he made a stop bar tailpiece version for himself. Well, that guitar is actually being done with Fender Custom Shop as a limited run, which is pretty cool. I'm sure it's really expensive, and I'm sure they're all sold out because that's pretty cool. Tazzy Tim, happy Australia Day for Monday. Thank you. Thanks, Dylan. Thank you, Tazzy Tim. I appreciate your super chat. Looks like I'm getting that Epi Hetfield White Explorer with EMGs. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I don't know how many of those Seymour Duncan guitars they are, or when, or any of it. They just showed it, and it was really cool. I don't want one, and it's going to be ungodly money, but it's going to be worth it. For whoever's really into that. I think that's really cool. For me, the highlight of the show, there's 2. One is the Quad Cortex, the mini thing that basically looks like a touchscreen with buttons on it, like foot switches on it. That looks pretty cool. And then the other thing that I found interesting on the budget side of the modeling thing. So the reason I'm saying I was right about this is if you look at NAMM, there were some cool guitars, but most of them were just kind of, bold new graphics. Like that's what we would say in the dirt bike industry, right? Like the bike would come out and it would just be bold new graphics of last year. It would be different from last year, but it'd be basically the same thing. And that's really what you get, right? With Fender and with all those places, you'll just get like various combinations of colors that you didn't have before and whatever. But where the engineering is going is in the interface on the other side of the guitar. So amps and pedals and stomp boxes and amps in a box and unconventional amps. And actually there was more tube amps there than I thought. So on the processing side, not the playing side, I think is where we're going to see a lot more stuff happening. And so the Quad Cortex thing was very cool. But the other thing I thought was really interesting, I'm going to try to get my hands on one of these, is Nuex MG50 Li for $500. It is not only a modeler, but it is a profiler for $500. But that's not the cool part. Okay. It has a battery that you don't need anything to plug into it except for your guitar and your amp, or not even an amp, just straight out to the house for 5 hours. But that's not the cool part either. The cool part to me is that you can run 2 amps at the same time on stereo sides. I know that there are other modelers that can do that, but I don't know that there's one at $500 that can do that. Patreon can't. Kemper can't do that. Why did I say Patreon? UPS man must be here, or Amazon or somebody. Yeah. So I don't know what that why or how that's so cool, but that's really cool to have an amp on either side, and each amp can have 2 different cabinets going different places with different mic placements. So you can have 4 cabs, 2 amps, stereo, huge. That's very cool. $500 wireless. That's a really neat piece of kit. And I'm not sure that I've seen anything like that. I think that's pretty rad. Dylan has formulated a theory of everything. You missed it. It blew my mind. I don't know what that means, and I don't know what I did. Maybe I did, and I didn't even know it. That it might have blown. I might have blown my own mind. I have no idea. Were there any Fender guitar announcements other than a custom shop? I didn't see any either, Robbie. I did not see any either. He's finally figured out how to reconcile quantum mechanics with relativity. Well, that's easy. I don't even get into that in public. The new X stuff is great. I gave my old MG30 to my son. Cool. All right. DTT content idea. Delete one tone knob on a Squier Strat because the volume knob keeps getting in the way. If you order a guitar, if you order a loaded pickguard that way, I will do that for you. And if you order it, we will make a video about it. Here's the problem. It costs me extra. I don't know if you know this or not, but a lot of those options. So like if you call me and say, hey, I would like to delete the volume knob, that costs me an extra $20. I don't usually charge for that. I just do it because I'm cool. So I just don't do it just for the heck of it, because actually this might blow your mind, but the amount of times that we ship a half a dozen pickguards a week, and I would say the amount of times that somebody has actually said, can you please delete the volume knob in the last 13 years, I could probably count on one hand. There's almost no one actually buys it. That's one of those, man, I wish they would do that things. But either the people don't want to pony up and actually pay for it, like a new loaded pickguard with it, or they don't actually think that because they don't actually do it. So if you want to do it, I'm happy to do it for you. And I'm even happy to pay the difference, but I'm just not going to do it for no reason whatsoever, because nobody's going to want it from me. That's what'll happen is I'll build it. Like, let's say I built it for a video just to show you that it could be done and how to do it. And then it'll sit on the shelf forever because no one will actually want it. And I don't like to do that. So there you go. That's why. Let's see. I'm just waiting for String Joy's flat wounds. Oh yeah, that'd be cool. Did you find out anything? Did you find out anything on the CNC winder upgrade? I did. It is on the way. Tone Winder is a company out of Spain. So Sean was at our Patreon and our YouTube member hangout last night. So he was asking me, we were talking about last night. The Tone Winder has a new thing that if you have a Mojo Tone Winder, you can basically put their CNC front end and mate it up with a Mojo Tone Winder and have a CNC winder for about half the cost. Well, it's not half the cost. It ends up being, well, let's just say this. So I think that thing is $600. The thing to do it, like the thing to retrofit it. A Mojo Tone pickup winder is $600. The CNC tone winder, the complete CNC tone winder, is $13, So if you already have a Mojo Tone winder, this will be a thing that you'll be able to retrofit. Make sure if you order one that you put DylanTalksTone in the discount code thing, because that helps out the channel when you buy from there. They support us pretty well. So yeah, right on. me just go through here. Okay. One of the other things I want to talk about today is, all right, so that's a lot of the NAMM stuff. If you still have NAMM stuff, please put it in the comments, because I think I covered pretty much everything that I saw. Let's see. Dylan said, Dylan, any tips for freeing up the movement on an old treble pot on an original Marshall Governor pedal? I got it cheap and used. It works great overall, but was heavily gigged for 30 years and gunked up. I would try Deoxit, but I wouldn't try anything other than that. Yeah, that would be my thing. If anybody else has suggestions for him, use at your own risk, but I would try Deoxit. That would be my thing for that. Okay. I was watching Phil McKnight's video, and he talked about, what was the title of his video was really good. It was here, hang on. Let me pull it up, because I was really actually kind of not only impressed with the video, but also the cheap guitar companies are eating themselves. That's what the title of his video was. And he brought some points up that I had not thought of either. I look at this thing from the business perspective of a lot of these things, and it in bigger picture, right, than just one brand. And and one of the things he said in there was like, everybody's going to blame stuff on tariffs because they can, because it's an easy out for an easy conversation. You can just say, oh, well, it must be tariffs. Yeah, that's probably what it is. But when you look at it, there are many other companies who are still functioning just fine despite that. Fender, PRS, and any number of Indonesian companies, and actually any number of Chinese companies that are functioning just fine. So Eastman, all of them, they're doing just fine. Everybody's, maybe prices but one of the things they had to do was buy more inventory. What they might have to do is, an approach could be, let me just say it that way, to buy more inventory so that you could offset some of the costs for your consumer. But when you have zero margin in the item in the first place, you have no room to do anything except for raise your prices, right? So there's no margin in those guitars. So therefore they just either had to raise prices or stop selling them. They chose to stop selling them because they know that the value proposition for a very inexpensive guitar is in the price. It is not in the product, right? They're okay. Sure. But only if you can get them for X amount of dollars. If they go up $100, they're not worth it anymore, because then it runs into another market of guitars that is obviously better, right? So that's what happens. And so they probably just decided to pull it. But one of the things that is killing it, and one of the things I talk about all the time, and I'm not attacking anybody for playing. You can play whatever you want. In a video on our other channel today, I said, if you play a Harley Benton guitar, for example, and you say, I can't tell the difference between a Harley Benton and a Les Paul, then you just saved yourself $2,800. So I'm glad you're content with what you have. The only thing that's annoying is when you tell me I can't tell the difference, because actually I can, right? So, and that might change as skill levels change and as time changes and you learn things about guitars that might change for you, or it might not. You might always be happy with that guitar, which is totally great. That's actually cool. That's not an uncool thing. That's actually a really cool thing. The problem with the race to the bottom, though, with all these guitars is there's no market there. So what you have is a disposable product because you can't sell it. So there's no resale in it. People always talk about, well, the reason I don't buy custom guitars is because the resale value. Well, you cannot buy a Harley Benton and then get involved in a conversation about resale value, because there's no resale value. Phil was saying that he talked to people at Guitar Center who they're instructed to not take Harley Benton, Firefly, eArt, like all that stuff on trade. Like they're just instructed not to do it. He brought up examples of a Firefly guitar that was $250 on the website that is $500 for the ones that they do have in stock on Guitar Center. Again, there's no margin. There's no margin in it. So the prices have to come up because you can't go down. You're already at the bottom. You can't go lower. And because these are trend-based guitars, okay, these are not legacy instruments. These are trend-based guitars, meaning that it's a copy of a copy. So if it's a trendy thing to have a copy of this thing, then you get it, and then that's it. But you can't sell it because there's nobody to sell it to. It's a weird thing. And the other thing, and I've talked about this in the past too, that the reason those guitars do well is not because they're good. It's because they go viral. That's it. It's a trend. It's a fashion. It's a disposable fashion. That's what it is. Those guitars are a disposable fashion. And so Phil was talking about on his channel, and I agree, that if you say this cheap guitar is just as good as an expensive one, you'll get more views if you say this expensive one is awesome. The only time you'll do good on a video with an expensive guitar is if it's not good, if it's bad. So it is a negative marketing space. The entire thing around cheap guitars is a negative marketing space. It's just not constructive to the hobby. It's not constructive to people's mentality. It's psychologically hurts. Like, it's just not good. If I were to start doing those videos and contribute to that, I just couldn't live with I just don't want to do it. Because you could literally just jump on the viral bandwagon and sell cheap guitars. That's what everybody does. That's not everybody, but that's what a lot of people do. And because they go viral, people buy them. And it's not because they're good. They're okay. They're okay. They're not good. They're okay. Right? You can take a $250 guitar and it functions as a guitar-shaped thing. Okay? That's all you can expect. Sometimes, like 80%, let's give it the benefit of the doubt and say that 75 to 80% of the time, a $250 guitar functions as a guitar-shaped thing out of the box. I know that's too high, but let's just be nice about it and say that. But when you are a person who wants more than a guitar-shaped thing, it's just not for you. And so I think that once all the guitar-shaped thing needs are met, and I'm not talking about economically here. I'm talking about the psychological buy of an instrument. And I think people they'll jump straight into the tool of it, right? Well, anybody can own a cheap screwdriver, but what fun is that? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, I want something cool. I want to feel cool when I play guitar. If you don't want to feel cool when you play guitar, that's fine. I guess that's why those guitars exist, but I don't want that. I want something cool. And it's not always about the price, right? It might take a little patience, might take a little hard work, might take a little, extra mowing lawns on the weekends. I don't know, but yeah, interesting. It's an interesting concept. Sensationalism sells. Yeah, absolutely. Hang on. Let me go back through these. And I was surprised at all the Fireflies and Harley Bentons that were on Guitar Center, priced hundreds higher than a new guitar. Yes, because there is no profit in them. You can't, you can't go anywhere but up when there's no down. You just can't. So you have to go up. But then it loses its value proposition because it's too expensive. Even if the guitar was worth what it was when it was new, it's not worth what it is used in any scenario. That's the problem. You should try the Jet guitars. Yeah, I won't. I don't need to. I don't want to. I don't have a reason to. The Colliery of what Phil said is that the pool of customers for those cheap guitars is getting smaller. I was about to get to that. Also, they are running out of models to clone what people want. Okay, this is really good. This is why it's so important to think about this. Here's the problem with these guitars, okay? The problem is that we don't look at the psychology of buying an instrument. And for the person who says, I just want a guitar that works, you're lying to yourself. 100%, you're lying to yourself. Because at some point, you're going to pick your favorite color. You're going to pick a familiar shape. You're going to pick something that you relate to somehow, subconsciously or consciously. There is going to be a psychological component to that purchase. Otherwise, that purchase would not happen. It's how human beings work. It's just the way we are. So the person who says, I just want a guitar that works, is just lying to themselves or not admitting that there is a psychological component to their purchase. So understanding that, the market for these cheap guitars is getting smaller, and it is not because people can't afford or can't afford. It's because mentally they're flaming out. There's so much crap out there that they're just like, I don't even want to. I don't go into Guitar Center anymore. And okay, this is an excellent, let's talk about this. So this is how I'm sure we can relate to this in some way. Okay. You probably have a hobby of some sort. I don't know what it is. Okay. It could be model airplanes. It could be pocket knives. It could be guitars. It could be anything. It could be, I don't know. You might collect lawnmower batteries. I have no idea. But you could you have your favorite store that you go into, and then you have the other store that you don't really go into anymore because you went in there and you just saw the same thing all the time and they never really had anything new and the selection was sort of And so you just kind of don't go in there. You might go in there like once a year to see if they have anything. And then you sort of walk out disappointed and go, yeah, it's the same old stuff, right? That is the exact same thing that's happening with the world of $200 guitars. It's the same actually in the pocket knife world too. I collect pocket knives and I don't buy nearly as many as I used to because there is a saturation, and it is the same thing. It's Chinese companies. You can get a titanium handle frame lock with some fancy stuff on it and a cool looking blade made at a Chinese OEM for $180 in all kinds of different flavors, right? Like there's like 5 or 6 big OEMs over there. And after a while, you open up a knife retail website and you just go, oh, that's made by Riot. That's made by Kunwu. That's made by whatever. You can just tell that it's just a Chinese titanium knife. On their own, when you think of nothing else, it's like, wow, that's a pretty cool knife, but you're just overdone with it. The guitar thing's the same way. The last time Leslie and I went to NAMM, we were walking around and she's the one that said to me, she goes, aren't like the last 5 electric basses we looked at exactly the same thing with different stuff on the peg head? And I'm like, yeah, pretty much. And I bet they're all coming from the same factory and they're just private labeled versions of each other, right? And so after a while, you just sort of walk by them. It just doesn't happen anymore. And that saturation is what we're getting to with this stuff. Okay. Now, there's always going to be the person who says, but I can't afford an expensive guitar, so this is what I have to buy. These guitars are for you. Here they are. I'm glad you have them. I want you to have something to play, right? I think there's probably better brands and things that will serve you in the future over the long haul better than those. But if that's what you have and that's what you're into, then I will not say anything negative about it. Absolutely. I want you to play. That's the 100%. That's 100% most important thing. But for let's face it, the deal getters and the just as good guys and the guy whose hobby it is to find the cheapest guitar, that's a different guy than the guy who's like, well, look, I have $300 and I want a Les Paul copy. All right, well, here's a Firefly and it's going to be the thing, or Harley Benton or whatever. I think if you save up a little bit more, but maybe you just can't, and that's what you have. And there you go. Right. But then there's the guy that has 10 of them who really should have just bought a Gibson. But, that's a whole nother conversation. So there you go. If you're in the business of buying and reselling, I would avoid the cheap brands. Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think we need to look at the psychology of this because we are people. Let's see. People, especially me, love giant killers. Okay, I get that. However, a $200 guitar is never going to be a Gibson killer. Now, can a $2,500 Texas Toast guitar be a more worthy opponent? Yes. Underdog, right? Small company. And I just use them because that's what I've got sitting here. But there's many of those, right? Oh man, what's that company from Mexico that was at NAMM this year again? And when they first came out, they were kind of crappy. Actually, their finishing wasn't very good, but their stuff is really cool now, and they're always like crazy. They have a really cool booth and stuff. Really crazy colors. Oh man, is it Couch? No, it's not Couch. Anyway, I can't think of it. The only reason I can think of to buy a cheap guitar for myself would be if I was wanting to experiment with heavy mods. Yes, exactly. They serve a purpose for sure. Yeah, for sure. Upgrading pickups and electronics does make my poor playing sound a lot better. I agree. And some of that might be psychological, but that's okay, right? It doesn't matter. Yeah. So this is just an interesting thing. When I heard that podcast, I was like, exactly. I'm glad that there's somebody else being reasonable about this stuff out there, besides me. I don't think about resale. I just want something fun to play. For the most part, I don't think about resale for the most part. And I don't think about it unrealistically. I've got a couple of guitars that I'm actually interested in selling right now. And I have thought about it and I'm like, I look at it. It's one of these things where it's like, okay, I'll tell you which one. My PRS Fiore. It just sits there. I love it. It's probably one of my favorite guitars of all time. I really love it. But I just don't play it. It just doesn't get enough time. You know what I mean? It just doesn't get enough. I don't play it enough. And so it's just money hanging on the wall. Well, okay. What did I pay for it? I paid I think they're like $2,700 now. I think I paid $24 for mine new because then prices went up during COVID and whatever. And I think they're about 18 now used, 18 or 19 or something used. So that's, that's $500-$600 less than I paid for mine. I'm not unrealistic in the sense that, well, I want to get almost as much as I paid for it because it looks brand new and it is brand new and it's, I barely played whatever. And I'm like, no, I got X amount of years of ownership out of that thing. And so, if it's realistic that this is what they go for used, then that's what they go for used. I'm not going to, yeah. So that's kind of the thing. Yeah. I've regretted almost every sale. Me too. And that's the problem. I sold my Silver Sky and the day I sold it, I regretted it. And I think about a week later, I got another one on order, and I'm just like, oh man. Guitars I'll probably never sell. My custom shop Gibson and those two Gibsons right there. I probably won't sell any of my Strats. I definitely won't sell any of my Texas Toast guitars. Probably won't sell my Telly either. I really love my Silver Sky. I don't play it as much, but I even play my Fiore less, which is kind of weird. Yeah. Yep. I like buying and modding. Yeah, that's fun. That's fun. I actually just had to replace the volume pot. When I used I ended up not using it in the video, but when I did that P90 video, I was playing some stuff for that P90 video, and my volume pot quit on my my Gibson SG Junior, so I had to replace that. If we're still talking about NAMM, I'm just amazed by the amount of guitar builders that are out there. I agree. I've been considering selling my Nags. It's great, but I don't play it. Yeah, that's the thing. I'm like, I've got enough guitars around here. I could probably sell a few of them and like buy a car. So I don't know. Oh, that's the other thing we should talk about. Everybody keeps saying that the used market is dead. I disagree. I think that if I were to want to go sell my Fiore right now, I would get whatever I wanted for it, and it realistically, I'm not going to get $5,000 for it, but if I, realistically, so if I tried to sell it for, $2,000 or something like that, or maybe a little less, I'd probably get it. Right. What if it takes me 3 weeks or a month to sell it? That's fine. I'm not in a hurry for it. Doesn't matter. I don't think the market is soft. I think the market for cheap stuff is soft because of all the things we just talked about. I think that, a good guitar is just fine in the market. I think cheap guitars are not. Let's see, at DylanTalksTone. What did he say? I want a Charvel Guthrie Govan. Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, man. I just realized with Mock Horror that I don't have a yellow guitar. Okay, yellow guitar. Does the Revstar come in yellow? It's it's more of a fluorescent-y, highlighter-y, greeny yellow, but it's pretty cool. Here's what I would go with. Let's see. Yeah, so there you go. I mean, that's all I got, really. That's just some stuff I was thinking about today. I appreciate everybody coming and hanging out, talking about guitar stuff, because that's what we do. And make sure you go over to the website and check out our Stratocaster stuff. And if you've got questions, one of the things that buy once, cry once, it applies to guns as well. Dude, don't even get me started. SHOT Show was the same week as NAMM. I'm like, oh, here we go. Okay, so what I was going to say is one of the things that the girls both wanted me to start including in live streams is when you go to the website and you look at the chat thing down there, the little thing, that's actually me. So it's not a bot. It does have some like pre-recorded answers and stuff sometimes, but I'm usually like, that wasn't me. That was the bot thing. So I'm there. So like if you go to the chat on the website and message me right now, my phone will light up. I might not get to it right this second, but it is me. So Leslie and Brianna were both like, you need to mention that more more often because people need to know, that what we're doing. So cool, man. You guys, this is great. I guess we will see you tomorrow. I think I want to talk about Bigsby stuff tomorrow. So we will see you tomorrow.